Good afternoon. The Wednesday, February 22nd, 2023 meeting of the Longview Metropolitan Planning Organization is now called to order. Our invocation and pledge will be given by Mr. Dwayne Archer. Please rise.
Please join me in prayer. Father God, we thank and praise you for this incredible day, and we thank you for this community that we're so blessed to be a part of. Father God, we thank you for all that you provide us. Please guide this board as they make those decisions for this community. We look to you for all things. In Jesus' holy name we pray. Amen. Amen. Join me for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Dwayne. We're to citizen comment. I do not have any cards. Anyone wishing to speak that does not fill out a card? Very good. We'll now go to the approval of the August 17th, 2022 meeting minutes. Is there any questions of those meetings, the minutes? If not, is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. I'd like to go to the approval of a resolution adopting the Longview Transit Agency's safety performance measures targets. Brian?
Thank you, Mayor Mack. So today we're going to adopt two different types of safety performance measures. This first one is going to be for the transit side, so the public transit agency side, and then we'll also do the transportation side on the Federal Highway Administration. So Longview Transit Agency established a public transit agency safety plan, and so within that safety plan was methodology of how to formulate the different measures of number of fatalities, rate of fatalities, number of injuries, rate of injuries, and number of safety events, and system reliability. And so they established a baseline and then set an annual target. And so these what are presented today are the safety targets that are within that agency plan. And so I'm here to ask for you to adopt said performance measures as presented. City of Longview, the fiscal agent of Longview Transit Agency, also adopted these measures along with the board of Longview Transit. And so I ask that y'all please consider them today, and we can utilize these into our documents and our plans for our transportation methods.
Any question, Mr. McBride, on this? If not, is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir. We'll now approve a resolution adopting the Texas Department of Transportation safety performance measures PM1 targets. Mr. McBride.
So this is the second part of a Federal Highway Administration's for the transportation side of safety performance measures. Similar to the transit one I just spoke about, these are the five focusing on fatalities, serious injuries, fatality rate, serious injury rate, and total number of non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries. And so basically through this process, TxDOT works with the MPOs to kind of help establish these safety performance measures. And so they were tasked to by Federal Highway Administration, and then thus TxDOT and MPOs work together to help formulate these measures. And so what they do is they use their safety plan, kind of similar to what transit does, and they target out the specific years over the course, I believe that was 2022 when it started, and it's 5 years, so about 2027. And so what they do is they project out, what they need to accomplish in order to meet reducing the number of fatalities by 2035 in half, and then 0 fatalities by 2050. And so that is kind of, this is what they presented as the 2023 target expressed as a 5-year average. So the state and the MPOs adopt the 5-year average to be consistent and make that trend to eventually be 0 fatalities by 2050.
Any question, Mr. McBride, on that? I just have one observation. Why is 2021 so poor? I mean, what happened in 2021 to make it go up 20% on fatalities and serious injuries and then go back down again in 2022?
It's kind of shocking to me because I actually look at our local data and our numbers were actually lower than your typical trend. We actually had 17 according to the CRIS data set, and then we actually jumped up to 33 fatalities within the MPO area back in 22. And so we're actually kind of doing this, but I'm not sure. I don't know if it's because of the pandemic. I don't want to point at the pandemic for
If you
everything.
could predict that, I want to know which years to stay off the roads. So if you got an idea, let us know, okay?
I'll try my best.
So I think you'll see similar numbers statewide as well as nationwide. A lot of it is the pandemic. Driving behaviors changed very much so. People got very comfortable driving whatever speed they chose,
People were very
regardless.
mad.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
being stuck at home.
people lost respect for
Yeah.
others on the road, and it resulted in
It does make sense.
these type of numbers.
Right.
I
Okay,
would
very,
say the Tyler district had our worst year in '21 as 197 fatalities, and we had 192 last year. So those are two of the worst years we've had on history, so it follows that trend.
The Atlanta district as well.
Yeah.
And our border. DPS is tasked with many things.
Right.
And there were not as many present
Right.
in this areas.
they have to go do their duty.
Yeah, and when you look at a statewide map, this corner of the state, that Tyler, Atlanta, Lufkin, kind of on the upper end of everything. So,
Thank you for y'all's explanation. Very good. Is there no more questions? We'll have a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion, second?
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all. We now have approval of FY 2022-2023 Unified Planning Work Program modification. Mr. McBride.
So our UPWP, our Unified Planning Work Program, is our 2-year budget that the MPO utilizes planning funds and programs out, staff time and projects. So recently, you might have seen that the state, our Tech Dot Commission approved to allot $50,000 to the MPOs to kind of help combat, the fatality issues through a safety action plan. And so doing that, we have to account for our work and our efforts to reduce fatalities. And we do already have a task 5.1, that concentrates on that. But we have to further clarify that we're going to be working on a safety action plan with the state and as well as TTI. And so that's one modification. The second modification is our special studies task. It's the East Loop 281 corridor study, which you'll actually hear a little bit more here in a few minutes. But we have to, since that contract went over into the fiscal year 23, we have to account for that to basically pay them back or pay off the rest of the contract with them. And so I've got to allot $95,000. It was already set for fiscal year 22, but I'm just rolling it to 23. And so this is part of that process here. And I'll be happy to answer any.
Any questions, Mr. McBride, on this? If not, is there a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. We have a motion second. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir. Now a presentation of the East Loop 281 corridor study. Mr. Faldu.
And so I've asked Freese and Nichols with Sandip to kind of give you the highlight of East Loop 281 corridor study that I just talked about. So we're on the final stage, and so I've brought him or asked him to be here to present the findings of that, to give you all a chance to ask any questions y'all would like. This impacts the city of Longview as well as some of the ETJ of Longview, specifically the East Loop 281, and it hits both Tyler District and Atlanta District. So, Sandip.
Thank you, Brian. I'm glad to be back in Longview and glad to see you all. As many of you are involved in this study, as you know, a lot of analysis and coordination went into the project. So the intent of the presentation here today is to just give you a brief overview of the analysis and findings and recommendations. So the study team comprised of course, Longview MPO as the sponsor agency, City of Longview, TxDOT, both districts, Atlanta and Tyler. And the consultant team comprised of Freese and Nichols, Cambridge Systematics, and Graham Traffic. The goal of the study was to develop short and long-term alternatives to improve traffic mobility, improve safety, coordinate access, and accommodate for future growth for all users of the corridor. This slide gives kind of an overview of the plan process. So we started the study in March of last year with assessment of needs, where we collected a lot of data, existing traffic counts, existing plans in the study area, crash data analysis, all the GIS mapping that the MPO has done, and put together the needs assessment. Then we took all that information to the first round of public outreach and participation that happened in May. So we met had a series of meetings with stakeholders. We interviewed elected officials, TxDOT officials, city officials, developers, and major landowners in the area. We also met with the public and presented our initial analysis and basically solicited their input on what issues they are facing. We also met with the project steering committee to gain their perspective and feedback on what are the issues facing the corridor. Then in the next phase, we gather all that analysis and input and basically develop conceptual alternatives, did traffic forecasting, alternatives analysis and modeling, developed access management strategy, developed the corridor thoroughfare sub-area plan, and then went into September with a second round of public participation outreach where we presented all this information and ideas and alternatives to the public and to gain their feedback. And then went in the last phase, October to February, we kind of finalized that plan. We made, tweaked those plans as per input from the public. And then here we are in the final stages of the adoption of the plan. As most of you are familiar with, I won't spend much time here, but the corridor is in the northeast area of the loop. It's a 2.1 mile segment, 4-lane divided highway with the speed limits, very high speed, 65 miles in the southern half, 55 miles in the northern half. It's kind of interesting because it's divided into 2 text dot districts, 2 counties. There are one signalized intersection at Page and Delia and 2 unsignalized 8-grade intersections. And then also 2 grade separated interchanges at Tryon Road and FM 2208. Overall traffic counts are ranging from 23,000 to 28,000 daily traffic in the corridor. This is an overview of the crash data. The map shows the heat map, which is basically the darker the areas on the map that shows the higher concentration of crashes. And as you can see, Hollybrook Drive, Alpine Road, and Page and Delia were the hotspots where a lot of crashes are occurring. Also, looking at the top crash contributing factors, about 40% of the crashes are related to speeds. Also, 23% for fail to yield right of way. They are all related to kind of indirectly speeding. The chart there, the bar chart there shows the crash rate. So what we did was we compared the crashes to the statewide averages, crashes per 100 million vehicle miles traveled for a fair comparison. And you can see the corridor, for the last 5 years, the corridor crash rate has been consistently about twice the statewide averages for similar highways. As you can see also, 58% of the crashes are related to intersections. Also, from the questions we asked the public during the meetings as well as follow-on online surveys, what intersections concern you the most? And 61% came up with the answer that Page and Delia intersection is one of the major concerns, followed by about 15% each for Hollybrook and Tryon Road. Also asking further, why does this area concern you? About 50% were concerned about the safety of the corridor and traffic. 38% followed by that traffic flow efficiency. This slide kind of summarizes the public comments. So some of the major issues were shorter ramps, especially from Tryon Road and FM 2208. Due to very short ramps, there were side distance issues and very unsafe merging. Also, the left turns out of Hollybrook there was, even though the traffic was very less, that was kind of a dangerous maneuver to make through very high-speed multi-lane traffic. Also at FM 2208, there was a lot of congestion on the stop control intersections, and there was a desire for signalization there. Also high speeds on FM 2208. There was a lot of complaints about speeding traffic on the loop through this segment. Also, there were concerns about the traffic operations once the new Hallsville's ISD Elementary School opens to traffic. And also, a lot of high crashes at Page Delia intersection, red light running issues. But the major concern was the alignment of Delia Drive at Page Road, which is still within 50 feet. There was recently the approach was reconstructed as part of the school improvements, but it still remains within very close proximity of the major intersection, and that is a concern. Again, we asked, what are the changes or improvements you would like to see at the Page and Delia interchange? And that slide's kind of messed up, but basically, overall majority said that, the reconstruction of the intersection was the major concern there. This is an overview of the traffic analysis results. The red arrows with levels of service F shows very congested conditions in 2045 forecasted traffic. As you can see, left turns out of Hollybrook would be major concerns. Also, intersections of Alpine Road, as well as through traffic on Page Road were major concerns. So we took all this information, public feedback, analysis results, and everything, and came up with a set of recommendations for short-term and long-term. And generally, they can be grouped into these categories like provision of auxiliary lanes, intersection layout modifications, median opening management, signalization, speed management, and safety improvements, as well as access management and connectivity in the study area. So I have a series of 3 maps that kind of go into the details of what are those improvements. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them, but basically, provision of acceleration and deceleration lane at all the approaches and intersections was one of the things. Also at Hollybrook Drive, restricting those turns into directional left turns so that only people from the loop can get into Hollybrook Drive and not left turns out of Hollybrook Drive. That would significantly improve the traffic operations and safety in the area at both of those interchanges. Also providing acceleration lanes for Hollybrook approaches. For FM2208, again, lengthening those ramps by providing deceleration lanes so there is enough queuing storage and, moving the slower, decelerating traffic away from the through traffic there. Also at the intersection of FM2208, we did a limited signal warrant analysis, and it's very close to meeting the warrants. It will meet in a few years. And our analysis shows that if the signalization was not done, then the conditions would continue to deteriorate there. So that is a short-term improvement that we suggest there. But also in the long term, based on the 2045 forecast, you would need to widen FM2208 to the ultimate 5-lane cross-section. That project from Loop to the south is already in the MTP plan as a funded need. North of the Loop, it's an unfunded need. So you would need to basically widen as well as install a signal to reach the needed capacity there. And then rest of the slide is basically providing deceleration and acceleration lanes at the median openings as well as access points. The southern section here, again, some of the areas in the black that are showing auxiliary lanes that are also in the plans as part of the school improvements. But we recommend extending those acceleration lanes so that you have a longer deceleration lane approaching from the north to approach Page Road. Also, we recommend reducing the speed limit from 65 to 55. There is already 55 speed limit on the north, and as the development trickles down into the areas here with the school traffic and all, it makes sense to just reduce the speed limit to match the northern section. Also, the realignment of Dahlia Drive to align directly with the existing school driveway. That project has already been approved as a developer participation agreement as of last summer. So that project would be going forward soon. Also, we recommend installing some signage about do not blocking intersection as well as some advanced warning signs along the loop. Right now, there is an advanced signal intersection sign, but we recommend enhancing it with an activated sign so people are aware when they are approaching a red signal so they can stop in time. So all of these improvements are grouped into short and long-term improvements, and our plan actually provides details about each of those improvements, and an implementation plan is in place. But in addition to that, we also came up with potential roadway connections in the study area, and this is really important because we've identified some of the parcels that are going to be developed into residential and commercial uses. Also, most of the land adjacent to the loop is currently unoccupied and empty, so and it's all slated for retail development. So what we want to do here, being proactive, is develop the secondary roadway network that supports all that development, not only to provide access, but the aim is to keep those shorter, slower trips away from the loop so that they never have to get onto the loop to get from one interchange to the other. And that's what is happening right now, and it could continue to happen if you don't have supporting roadway network. So that would really enhance the overall operations in the area, and it would help keep the slower traffic away from the high-speed through traffic on the loop. In addition to coordinating access and limiting the access points directly onto the loop. So those were kind of the conceptual roadway improvement recommendations. That's all I have. So right now, we have already submitted the draft and final, also the final plan based on the comments from the MPO and other staff, and we're kind of to wrap up the project. Any
Is there-
questions?
Is there any
Thank you, sir.
questions?
Any question, Mr. Faldu? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we have heard the presentation. Now we're to the approval of the East Loop 21 corridor study. Mr. McBride?
Yeah, so as you heard, the presentation from Freese, Nichols, Sandip, he presented on our findings of the project, and I would just recommend that we take this plan and adopt it and approve it, and so we can use it in our planning documents to further, develop our area consistently to what the public wants and desires, as well as help program out different projects throughout the future years to come.
Any question, Mr. McBride, on this? If not, is there a motion?
There a motion?
Second?
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir. On the MPO staff updates, Mr. McBride.
So I've got a couple slides. I will start off by saying, welcoming Rebecca Wells. She is the TxDOT Atlanta District Engineer, and so this is our first meeting. She replaces Buddy. The next thing I want to say is our travel demand model. We are about halfway through that contract with Kimley Horn, and we're about 90% developed with the base year. It's actually going to get completed this week to get 100%. But we're moving forward with that to help eventually, which is the next step, is developing our 2050 plan that will start in November. And so we use this model to help look at demographic, traffic counts, all the trends of that, and we take that part of our planning methodology, and we use that to help guide where new road projects should happen, widening projects, safety improvements. And so that's where a bulk of our data comes from, is our travel demand model. And so I just wanted to update you with that, saying that it's on track, and we'll be seeing results probably in around April when we're finishing up with that contract. The second slide I will say is the I-20 corridor study. Doing my due diligence of sharing this information that myself, along with other MPOs that are along I-20, participated in this corridor study and provided feedback. And so I'm just sharing this slide with y'all, letting y'all know that public and private partnership was utilized, and things were happening in our area that a lot of us this study happened for us actually in 2014 when we actually focused in on the east section, but now seeing that the state's taking a more global stance of looking at I-20 as a whole, which was, I'll say, is pretty beneficial. If you go to the interactive map, you can see a lot of our projects were actually identified back in 2014 and were actually programmed out, and their actually fundings are going to those projects to kind of help build our area. So it's kind of a kudos to the Longview MPO for, going through this process and identifying these different needs of the area and making it happen. So more information, you can see on the slide, they're looking for feedback. There's a couple of new things that they're proposing within our area, but a lot of existing projects have already been planned. So just throwing that out there for everybody. And that's it I have.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? Thank you all for your attendance today. Nice to see you all. So we are adjourned.